Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Chatting with Agnes and Cecilia. It is Monday, November 11th. It's Veterans Day here in the United States. Some of our global audience may have already celebrated Remembrance Day. So to everyone who has ever served in the military, or perhaps to those who are remembering those who died serving in the military, we say Happy Veterans Day here in America, Happy Remembrance Day in Europe, or whatever day you may be celebrating in your home country. Hi, and I am Cecilia Sepp. I am the founder and principal of Rogue Tulips. We provide 501c consulting services and association management services to any and all 501c organizations. My usual co-host, Agnes Amos Coleman, is on leave this month, so I'm joined here with my friend and colleague, Scott Morris, who is guest hosting with us for the month of November. Welcome back, Scott. Say hello to our audience.
Thank you, Cecilia, and hello to everyone in the audience. And again, to reiterate what Cecilia said, thank you to our U.S. veterans for your service to our country, and to our European veterans in Europe for your service as well.
Great, yes, and it's so important. You know, we all get to live our lives in freedom and usually comfort, thanks to those who put their lives on the line for us at many levels. So happy Veterans Day again. And, you know, if you know a veteran, shake their hand or give them a hug. I know my dad was a Marine in World War II in the South Pacific. So that's always very near and dear to my heart. So moving on, we have a related topic today, somewhat to veterans and military activity, because today we're going to pick Scott's brain on government relations and advocacy, because that's his area of expertise. So Scott, you and I, when we were prepping for today, you had mentioned that depending on what kind of 501c organization you are, that is going to dictate to a certain extent what you can do in the area of government relations and advocacy. So could you briefly outline that for the audience?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Cecilia. And just about all associations are tax exempt. And an association's tax exempt category provides really the legal parameters for its government relations activities. And as you said, key issues include the amount of lobbying that the association can do and the political activity that it is allowed to do as defined by the IRS. There's the 501c3 organization, which is usually a charitable, scientific, educational, or religious organization. Its lobbying is very limited, and it cannot engage. It is prohibited from engaging in political activities such as setting up a PAC or endorsing a candidate or contributing to candidates. There's the 501c4, which is a social welfare organization. Its lobbying activities are unlimited, but only if it engages in social welfare, lobbying for social welfare purposes, and its political activity is somewhat limited. Then there is the 501c6, which is your business or trade association, and its lobbying activities are unlimited, and it is allowed to engage in political activity, such as having a PAC to contribute to candidates.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's really important to differentiate that for people, because a lot of times people have incorporated as a 501c3 when they're functioning as a membership, individual membership professional society. So it's very important to keep that in mind, because even if you are an individual membership group that's a C3, you're still limited by your incorporation status. So, right. You know, let's emphasize that as well. You might be functioning as a professional society, but make sure you're within those parameters. And Scott, it doesn't mean that you cannot advocate, correct? It means you can still go out and you can talk to people and educate them.
Yes.
Within that, yes. If you're a C3, right?
Right. You can educate people on the really the purpose of why your organization exists, and as well as on the issues that are of importance and that are of priority to your 501c3 association.
That's great. So if you could only give one tip to a 501c organization that is trying to promote its government relations agenda, what would that be?
I would say that an association's public policy priorities should be concisely stated and also approved by the association's board of directors. You've got to have buy-in by the leadership of your association. And your legislative program obviously needs to reflect the needs and interests of the association and of its members, and to a certain extent should take into account what the government's priorities and agenda might be as well. So it's good just to get consensus on 3 or 4 issues that are really important to the association.
Well, that's really good advice. Stay focused, especially
right.
in this noisy marketplace of ideas we're living in now. So speaking of noisy marketplace of ideas, we're coming up on the 2020 election. Last week we had some local and state elections in the United States.
Right.
So for those of you in our global audience, we have already had an election this month. Not in my state, Maryland, but in Virginia, where Scott lives, there was voting last week.
Right.
So we have our presidential campaign has been, I think, underway since the last presidential campaign ended, but now it's really going to heat up with the election coming up in 2020. So, Scott, what are some things that an association with an agenda that they want to promote to influencers and decision makers and regulators and legislators? What's something they can do to keep their ideas out there in the middle of a major election? This one's obviously going to be a very seriously contested election. Yes. So what are some things people can do to stay out there, keep their name out there, keep their ideas out there?
Well, if the association is a 501c6, it will most likely have a PAC or a political action committee. So in terms of the outcome of whether the House remains Democratic or whether the U.S. Senate remains Republican, contribute to association members should contribute to their association PAC, which can have some influence on the outcome of the election for U.S. Senate in their state or for U.S. representative in their congressional district. It's also important to have white papers, very brief and concise, that spell out what the issues of importance to the association are, and to send those to the various candidates running in a state or congressional district, so that the association's priorities will get before the candidate.
And that's really good, having the white papers available, and concise, of course, is obviously better, especially in today's world. Just hit the high points. I'm listening to an audiobook called 5-Star Communication for the ASAE book club, and it's one of the things that keeps hitting is be concise, be compelling, connect with those emotions. And so with that in mind, I want to talk a little bit about motivating people to donate to a PAC if you have one. I've worked at organizations with PACs before and trying to get the members educated about PACs, first of all, and second of all, why should you contribute? Because PAC contributions are not tax deductible. So one of the motivations of contributing to a foundation is it can be tax deductible. But if you're contributing to a PAC, that is not tax deductible at all.
Right.
So it's like your dues. It's not tax deductible. It can't even be a business expense, and it's got to come out of your own pocket. It can't come from your company. It's got to come out of your checkbook or your cash. So I used to ASA EPAC committee for several years. And so asking people to give money, one of the hurdles that we had to overcome in that individual giving is to convince people that giving to the PAC is in support of the profession and not necessarily going to go against your personal belief system. So that was always the hurdle with APAC. Like, well, what if I don't like their positions? Like, well, they only take positions based on what ASAE stands for, in defense of the profession.
Right.
So that's one hurdle I've always seen. Have you seen another way to get beyond that? Or are there other hurdles to getting people to contribute to PACs?
I think one way to get beyond those hurdles that you have just described is to make contributing to the PAC a game. Very interesting.
Oh, fun. Okay, I like games.
Sometimes associations, maybe at their national conventions, will have a table whereby association members can come and put their, write their names on a piece of paper to be, you can have a drawing for a nice, either for a meal at a restaurant or a nice product, like a really beautiful watch or, a beautiful picture frame, things that will provide an incentive to association members to contribute to the PAC. And also, everyone, likes to be recognized for their contributions. So you can have a platinum level for contributions, which would be a certain amount of that one contributes, or a gold level or a silver level, with banners listing everyone's name and at what level they contributed. That's always fun to do.
Yeah. And make sure you spell the names right.
Right, exactly. And so there are a variety of ways, playing other types of games which will lure association members to contribute to the PAC as well.
Yeah,
really providing this.
Something ASA used to do, I don't know if they still do, is APAC champions, where if all of the volunteers on a committee or all the volunteers on a section council gave, or 70% of them gave, they became APAC champion status. And
right.
I remember when I was vice chair of the communication council years ago, I'm sorry, not vice chair, immediate past chair, I made that my project as immediate past chair, is like become an APAC champion for the communication council. And really a lot of it was just like hammering it home. Please give, please give, please give.
Yes.
So that's, it's consistency. It's more important. It's important in more things than cake mix. That's like what I like to say. It's like, because you have to have your good consistency. But so Scott, we only have a few minutes left. So what would you like associations to walk away with today? What is an idea that you have that you'd like to promote about government relations and advocacy, and how associations can be so key in that area? I'm
sorry, could you repeat the question?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I lost you a little bit.
No, it's all right. No, it's okay. So what idea would you like associations to take away today when it comes to their role in government relations and advocacy? Because associations play such an important role in promoting ideas and representing different segments of society. So what is an idea you'd like them to take away today to think about, or a question you want them to ask themselves?
One idea which I think will make an association stronger is that if the opportunity arises when promoting an idea or a piece of legislation, either in Congress or in their respective state legislature, is to try and get into a coalition with other like-minded groups. Associations which share a common purpose or perspective can accomplish more when they collaborate than when they collaborate with other associations than when they pursue, more narrow interests on their own. The greater the voice, the larger the voice, the more impact they will have with the legislative body.
Wow, that's great advice. Strength in numbers, and I think collaboration
Correct.
always makes for better outcomes. So
yeah,
that's our talk for today, our episode for today. I want to thank Scott again for sharing his knowledge on government relations and co-hosting this month as our guest while Agnes
my pleasure.
is away. So yeah, thank you, Scott. And
certainly.
So we also would like to say Chatting with Agnes and Cecilia is brought to you by Rogue Tulips, LLC. As we said at the beginning, we are a 501c consulting company, and we also offer association management services. So check us out on the web at roguetulips.com. We're also a huge supporter of the 501c League, which is a virtual membership organization for everyone in the 501c community and the people who love them. You can check that out at 501cleague.net. The League's also offering 2 courses this month. One is the ethics course, the ethical nonprofit, which fulfills the new ethics requirement launching in 2020. And we also are offering a course called Comanches or Mongols, a different view of chapter relations. So if you'd like to check it out, you can go to that website. Again, that's 501cleague.net. And we want to remind you, take 15 minutes and talk to somebody because you might learn something. So until next week, Scott and I are saying farewell and have a good week ahead. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.